Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining this session. So my name is Amanda Jenkins, and I have been working with Silvalea for over 23 years, which has given me lots of knowledge on slings and their suitability. And today's session, we're going to look at the slings that can be left in place. So there's always a big debate and a big discussion about this. So whether you should leave a sling in place. They're often called leave-in, in-situ, all-day. So lots of different names, but slings that have that description are designed slightly differently. They are made in different fabrics, and it will then enable somebody to be left on the sling for longer periods. So we're going to talk about those. So anyone that's just joined us, welcome. If you can kindly turn your camera off and mute your microphone, then that'd be very grateful. So thank you very much. So when you want to leave a sling in place, it's got to be a discussion between everybody to understand whether it's going to be suitable. So, a thorough care plan must be worked out and to determine whether it's going to be suitable to leave a sling in. And often people like to leave the sling in place because it reduces handling, or you've got someone in a very tight chair, it's very difficult to get the sling in and out. So it's things like that, but you've got to be very careful in the choice of style, the correct fitting, and fabric choices. So to start with, I'm going to talk about the fabric choices we can offer, and there are 3. And if we look on the website, there's lots of information on there about each fabric, but I'll just talk about the ones we have first. So the first fabric is a super fine. So super fine is a unique fabric to Silvalea. It is a fine 2-way stretch mesh that has Coolmax within the properties. So Coolmax is inherent within this fabric, and Coolmax is a property that helps to wick away moisture. So if you have someone that has temperature issues, then the superfine may be a fabric to consider. So superfine is generally in navy. Judy, don't mind. It is very stretchy, so it's really good. It will hug curvatures and find natural contours. So it's a nice, fine, lightweight mesh. It is a mesh, so you can use it for bathing as well. So the water will run through the little holes on the fabric. Single layer superfine. So we do single or double layer. So single layer superfine has a weight limit of 10 stone, 64 kilograms. So that is ideal for youngsters or people under that weight limit. And being lightweight is also good for moulded chairs, so any tight fitting chairs. But single layer, 10 stone. And the reason we put that as a guide is because of the stretch. So it's very stretchy. So if you can imagine you've got someone of a heavier weight, it will stretch and stretch before it actually lifts. So anyone over the 10 stone, we will double layer the superfine. So it's just a double layer of this fabric. So it has two layers here. So it's a double layer one. And then that will increase the safe working load to 220, which is 35 stone. So a little bit confusing, I know, but think about your single layer for youngsters and under 10 stone. A double layer will take it up to 220. So that's a super fine with Coolmax. So with this a sling made in this fabric, you will get a little bag, a mesh bag. So the sling will be provided in this because the superfine fabric is quite delicate and you want to try and avoid catching and snagging. So we provide a mesh bag. The washing temperature is listed on the sling. So all the slings will have a really good woven label. So the woven labels now mean that they won't fade, and has all the safety instructions on there. It's very important when you're using a sling to ensure that the label is legible. If the safety instructions aren't legible, then you're going to contravene the LOLA regulations. So always make sure that you can read everything on that label, otherwise you would need to withdraw the sling from use. So on here, it will have the safe working load, it will have the description of the sling, it will have any safety features, the washing temperature, maximum on here is 71. We generally encourage you to use a good non-biological powder so that it doesn't bleach out the colours, and a low tumble dry. We can tell if slings have been incorrectly laundered because there are signs of fading. So sections will be faded, and sometimes on this style, the extra fabric here will become brittle. So if it's been washed in a strong biological powder with bleaching agents, then we can work that out. Likewise, if it's been tumble dried at a too high temperature, then the padding will shrink. So we can, and the binding shrinks up, so we can tell. So we always encourage a good quality non-biological powder. So that's for the slings in general. So the superfine, single layer or double layer, and the third option is the superfine plus. So superfine plus is a very common type of fabric that's used for leave-in slings, generally in black, and it's a three-dimensional spacer fabric, so it's much thicker, but it will compress down, so much more solid. This doesn't have as much stretch, so it's got a safe working load of 220, which is 35 stone. So across the board, from tiny sizes to the extra large, it would be 220 or 35 stone. So the superfine plus is the black spacer. It's also a mesh, so often people will have several, so one for bathing, one for dry use. So those are the three fabrics. Let me just check that we haven't got any questions on the fabrics. So single layer, superfine, double layer, superfine, or superfine plus. Alice, are you at your desk, and have there been any questions on the fabrics?
No questions so far, Mandy.
Okay, so hopefully that's clear. There's a lot of information on the website, so we have really good, helpful data on there to help you rather than remember everything. And the fabrics are listed. There is another one which we don't tend to use, and that's the old Parasilk. So the Parasilk may be listed, and it's still available. We put Parasilk sections on the legs, so it's a slip fit fabric to help with inserting. And so we have in the past done slings completely in the slip fit, but you just need to be mindful it's very slippy and it can cause some overheating. So we tend to just stick to the superfines and superfine plus. So
Mandy, we do have a quick question.
Yeah, I think I saw that one about how long to leave it in.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I would definitely cover that question. It's a difficult one because, you need to think about, would you transfer Judith into her armchair in a leave-in sling and leave it all day? So the thing is, you've got to then think about, will she lose position? Will she slip? So if you're leaving someone on for extended periods, you've got to build in monitoring, checking for pressure, checking for repositioning. If she's slumped or she's moved or she's lost position or things are bunched up. It's one of those questions that you would need to establish. So, slings have been designed for longer use, which I will go through the designs, but, to work out how long is really down to your monitoring and understanding that individual person. So it's down to a full risk assessment to determine how long before you check for repositioning and pressure, because the slings are not pressure care products. the question was about leaving a sling in. The answer is a difficult one to say generally with, you know, one sentence answer. You've got to determine it yourself. You've got to work out how long you can leave that person in and check for monitoring and repositioning all the time. So you build that into a regular routine. But what we'll do now, we've looked at the fabrics, we'll look at the styles, because there are several different shapes. And you would then determine which shape of sling is suitable, because they all do different things. And we'll first of all, we'll look at the general purpose shape. So we call this straight leg. If Rhiannon, can you bring up the data sheet on the website? So every sling will have a data sheet on the website, please, which will give you all the information you need regards to the fabric options there, the codes, the sizing, little bullet points about the style, measurements, because measuring is tricky as well. But this is a complete data sheet that will have all that information for you. Along with, on the website, there's extra sizing, there's instructions of use, there's instructional videos, there's pictures. So if we can just look at the photographs, please, Rhi. This will show you the sling on a body. And then if you scroll underneath, it's different angles. So this is a straight leg made in one of those fabrics we talked about. And this shows you what it looks like. So you can see it's a divided leg, a standard general purpose application. But with this style, it will allow access for hygiene. So if you need a sling that you can allow for hygiene, but leaving it underneath, then this could be a possibility. Thanks, Rhi, just come back. So we just look at this one. So this is the straight leg style. I'm just going to put it around Judith. Now with slings, with a divided leg, they can be applied in a chair, or if you're applying it on the bed, then you need to ensure you've either got a head support or a profiling bed if the sling doesn't have a head support. But the most important thing is if you get the sling down to the base of spine, which will then enable the leg sections to come around to go towards the back of the knee. You start with it too high, or you're just trying to line the shoulders, then the sling may not be low enough. So leave the shoulder section to sort itself out when we hoist. So make sure you've got the sling around the femur towards the back of the knee. Now we're making it look easy, and I know it's not, and Judy's is very helpful. And we've got a nice open chair. So it's just for ease of the session. But the leg sections on this, on all of the divided leg ones, have slip fit to both sides, so that will help with inserting. This straight leg shape has a modesty strap that you connect together to keep the legs from splaying. So that's what the fitting looks like. There's colour coding to the loops. Generally, we'll start with a short shoulder long leg. And then if it needs adjusting, we'll adjust it. And it's all about building up what's appropriate. And then once you've got the right size, the right shape, the right fabric, then the application can then all be logged in the care plan that we're using. Short shoulder, long leg on Judy. This is a standard size. And before we go too far, just check we've got everything connected, Judith's comfortable, and we've got the chair caught up and the loops have stayed on the waist. So this is a very, very popular shape. It's very standard style, straight leg design. You probably know it's a universal shape. The legs have come behind there. So very standard. You think about this for a standard scenario. It's a full body sling. The fabric, this is the super fine, it's hugging Judith's curves. So with an in-situ or a leave-in sling, we avoid as many seams as possible. So the shaping is There's no extra darts, there's no handles. We try and avoid any bulk to prevent pressure. So it's smooth and it's hugging because of the stretch within this fabric around Judith very well. However, we can, if we need, we can take Judith to the commode or the toilet if we remove clothing with this style. We haven't got to put another one on. So that's the benefit of this shape. However, this shape, I would say, is not so good for anyone that's active. So if Judith was active, or this will jump or ride up into her groin and it would be really uncomfortable. If she has a significant curvature and windswept hips, one side won't be supported. So it's got limitations. This shape has got limitations with regards to support. The other thing that can happen is as the leg section comes around and it goes up to the hoist and the hoist takes up the slack, it can slightly externally rotate the hip. So it's very subtle, but if you've got anyone that has painful joints, arthritis, osteoporosis, brittle bone type situation, that can add to the discomfort and the pain. So you just need to be mindful that if that's happening, then we look at a different shape. So use this as a general purpose shape for very symmetrical body shapes. So that's that design. We can add on. So I'm just going to lower Judith down while I just explain what we can add on. So we can add a head support. So if we're having a head support, then it will be arched like that. Arched with bones in. So these are bones that are removable if they're too stiff or you need to take them out when they're being laundered. And I'll show you how to hook up that with the other design. But they can add on a head support. We can add on a waist support. The waist support is this little waist support fed through a channel at the back and it goes round at the waist, or it can be at chest level, depending on where you want it. If you're trying to avoid a peg, then you might want to go higher or lower. But it's a soft little waist support there. We've got a new viewer. If you wouldn't mind turning your camera off, please, because we are recording this session, if you would be so kind. Thank you. So this is the straight leg. Any questions on this one, Alice?
No questions so far, Mandy.
Okay, so we look at this is the first style, and we've sent you a poster, so you have all this information on there, just as a reminder. So don't worry about trying to remember all the shapes. So good for general transfers, good for if you need to allow for toileting. What you can do if you're worried about sitting on the seam is gently ease the leg sections to the side. So if you're taking the leg sections out, ease them to the side, so that will reduce what's left underneath, if you're worried about that. So the next style, let's have a look. So this is a In-Situ Deluxe shape, so slightly different. This is one of our most popular shapes because it does extra things and it's much more comfortable. So we've got it here with the head support, which I will explain the head support. And I'm going to put it on Judith. Again, it's a divided leg sling. So if we are applying it in a chair, ensure it's at the base, right to the base of spine, and then the leg sections come around. These are different, slightly different leg sections. They're paddles. Again, they've got the slip bit to both sides, but they're paddles, and then we connect them with this little modesty loop here, and then take the tape from the outside through. So now we're picking the legs up from the outside. So it's really helpful to support that hip. We're not going to get that rotation as we did with the straight leg version. So the deluxe leg picks the legs up from the outside. So all straight away, it's good for wrigglers. And we'll just hook it up. Again, we'll just go short shoulder, long leg. And see. Position we go. So just again, take up the slack. Because it all looks a little bit of a mess, and then it'll start straighten out. Just check we've got the slings tapes on. The leg paddles are connected. Just okay, well, I haven't, the head support isn't connected yet, so I'll show you that in a moment. Okay. Yeah. Right, so this one, we'll start at the head support. So the head support here has got extra tapes. They can go direct to the hoist, like that, or you can unthread them. I've just shown you that they've got a slider here. And you can thread it through the shoulder loop and back through both sides of the slider to the required tension. So once you've got that set, it's set. You can tighten it or loosen it. So if you want to avoid another loop to put on, feed it through the shoulder tape. But the angle of that takes it down. So you've got the angle of the tape to the shoulder. If you want the head support tape to take the support higher, then go direct to the hoist. Because sometimes if it's too low, then take it up, you'll get more control of the head if you need to by going direct. But as I said earlier, these bones here, they can be taken out. When you put your head back, Jude, please. And without them, the fabric will naturally curve, support the body. These can be a little bit stiff. Sometimes they're taken out and they need to be taken out for laundry anyway. So that's the head section. Again, this is the superfine, the lightweight fabric with the Coolmax in. And this is naturally hugging around Judith really well. If Judith was asymmetrical, the leg paddles on this shape will adjust asymmetrically, which is really useful if you've got someone that's got significant curvature. So this style is better for that particular situation. Better for a wriggler, because you've got the individual control of those paddles. But it still allows you to access the hygiene. So there's a little bit of area there if clothing is removed for hygiene transfer. What we've added to this one as well is a tape here at the hip. So this is an additional tape. And I will just explain that. Just spinning, they go. So a hip tape is an additional tape that's detachable. It's on a slider. You can adjust it to the required tension, and it feeds through a loop on the sling. And the purpose of it is to help with weight distribution. So if you have someone that has a lot of pain, significant pain, maybe a curvature, and they've got poor tone, and they're hoisted like this, and you want to lift the hip, just by adding a tape there, will do that. And it is really subtle, but it will help to lift the weight at the hip, distribute the weight, and take pressure from behind the knee. So if you have anyone that's got pain, hip, leg, heavier legs, just lifting makes a big difference. And what you need to do is adjust the tension so that the leg and hip pick up simultaneously. If it's too tight, it will force the hips up. If it's too loose, like it's quite loose now, it's not going to do anything. So you need to set it by taking Judith down to slacken off and then tighten to the required position there. Hope that makes sense. The other benefit of a hip tape is if you've got someone that has significant curvature and they're really leaning, you can adjust the tapes asymmetrically just by adjusting them. It's absolutely fine. The sling's capable of doing that as long as you've risk assessed, but they're quite good if you are trying to problem solve something like that. So this is the In-Situ Deluxe, very popular for youngsters, for active users because of the shape, particularly in the super fine, because it's fine if it's left in tighter chairs. And the leg paddles can then be eased to the side if needed. So very limited aperture there, but very good, you know, for controlling movement, particularly if you add a chest strap as well. How are we doing, Alice? Any questions?
Yeah, we've got a couple. First one is, why do you need to supply bones with in-situ slings?
Okay, it's just that extra support. If you put your head back. So someone needs that extra support, because if you take them out, you might need that extra, if the head supports, you've got no head support, then it just gives the extra there option. It's, if you don't need them, take them out. And certainly if you don't need a head support, have a sling without a head support. But I guess they're there as an option. What was the other question, Alice?
Next question, due to the design of the leg sections, does the seam around the bottom cause pressure points?
Again, this is all down to the individual risk assessment when you're initially working out style. So if you have someone that's on significant pressure care, then you need to avoid as much as possible. So you would then take the leg sections out and either have to take the sling out or move the sling away from any vulnerable areas. So the thing is what you need to establish is the right style. This style would suit someone that's wriggly, that you need to you then can have allow for hygiene. So this style's good for that. If you've got issues with pressure, are you going to add to those issues by getting the sling in and shearing it when you take it out? So it is all about balance care, really, working out what is the most appropriate. So there's not a right and wrong answer, but monitoring, like I said earlier, you've got to keep monitoring. If there's any areas of concern, then you need to take the sling out or change the style. So we make thousands of these, and we have done for many years, with very, very few issues. So we know that they meet the need. You've got someone padded or nappy, then that's fine. There's no risk at all. So you just need to risk assess. But if you think this is the wrong style, we'll look at another one. Any other questions with this one, Alice?
Yep, last one. Are there any additional risk assessments that need to be considered when having multiple straps to attach, especially in the case of emergency, when it would take some time to detach them?
Okay, so all the tapes on this sling now are fixed apart from the hip tapes, which you can leave on. You don't need to take them off at all. You can leave them on and they can be fixed if you need them. So they are all fixed. The hip tape is just a comfort. So it's not, it's not going to be detrimental if it's not there. So you just need to, as usual, make sure you've got the legs and the shoulder attached, like with any other pickup, sling. So if you're doing a quick emergency transfer, you've just got to make sure you've got the shoulders and the legs attached firmly. The head support, if that's a concern, feed it through the shoulder tape and it's sorted. So there's one less to think about, still just the shoulders and the leg. Any more, Alice?
No, thank you, Mandy.
Okay. So we've seen two styles and two styles that do different things. So what do we do if we don't want an aperture? So you want something as smooth as possible. So this would have to be applied on a bed. It's very difficult to get it on in a chair because it goes right underneath. It's an oblong shape, which you'll see on the posters and you can see it on the website. So you need to introduce it on a bed, changing table, either by rolling or inserting with flat sheets. So it goes right underneath. I've got it set up here with an amputee scenario, because if you're leaving a sling in with an amputee, then it's a really good shape. It's a very good style for all scenarios, because it's all in one. However, there's no possibility of doing a hygiene transfer with this one. So you can see that there's no aperture, but then it is smooth, so that it would sort of avoid that binding that you might think will cause a problem. It is useful for all situations, not amputees, but it's not so good if you've got a wriggler and an extender. So if you think about the control of this deluxe leg that wraps around the femurs, and you've got much more control for that type of situation. But if you've got something more compliant, then this is a really good option. It's very popular. There's a pole strap here that comes just between the legs there, and that just lifts slightly, so it will lift the middle to help balance the legs, or in a situation like this, it just will help to keep the amputation or amputee secure within the sling. There is also provision here for your hip tape, so that can be added. And what is also important is your hoist choice. So this is a mobile hoist with options of pickup here, which gives you another chance to put hip tape there or take the tapes out. So if you've got a complex situation and you've got someone that has got significant pain, and you're putting the sling onto a narrow spreader bar, it's going to protract their shoulders and squash them in. So anything really complex, think about this hoist width. You want to make sure it's as wide as their widest point. Otherwise, if you just put a sling on something narrow, it will squash them. Likewise with children, if it's quite wide, they're going to be swimming within the sling because the tapes go out to the hoist. Again, if you've got someone that's got significant pain, very poor tone, and they're really falling and folding up, you might want to have a 4-point spreader bar. So it takes the tapes out, and with the hip tape, it will help to open up the hoisting and really distribute the weight better. So hoists are really important to check that they are appropriate. I just have this little, this is an accessory that's a neck roll. Sometimes it's nicer than a full head support, but just net it in the neck. So again, if you've got a sling without a head support, but you use a neck roll, then there's no bones or anything that would be cause stiffening. It just feeds through behind the neck and loops through to the shoulder loop here. So just feed it through shoulder loop and secure it. And if you've got someone that leans to one side, then you can put that in. So that's just an accessory you can have instead of having a full head support. So this is the Recline. Generally it's in the spacer fabric, the Superfine Plus, which is the black spacer. You can request it in others, but it's most popular in the black spacer fabric. Any questions on that one, Alice?
We just had a question about the Recline and the long seat. So just explain the difference between the long seat. And just quickly, someone's got the camera on. If we could turn it off, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Yes, so if you know the long seat is complete oblong. The Recline has this additional pommel. So with the long seat, again, it's a very well-known shape, this oblong, very simple. It will pick up, but it can squash the legs together. So particularly if you've got a recent amputation, it will squash them. So you need to think about that. Will that add to the pain? Whereas this one, the Recline has got this little pommel here that slightly takes the tension between the legs to help balance the legs. So they actually are just slightly apart and balanced rather than forced together. So this is a really good shape. We don't tend to do the long seat so much now because this is far better, much more comfortable. Was there any more, Alice?
No, no more questions. Thanks, Mandy.
Okay. So we've looked at those three styles, the straight leg, the deluxe leg, and the Recline. So what we've recently introduced is a combination of the Recline, this one, and the deluxe. So let's just try and explain that. I'm going to move this out of the way so we've got a better view. And we call it the Recline Deluxe. So it looks, okay. So it looks sort of a real mixture of the both. So it's a full oblong shape. It will come under the bottom smoothly, but there are these paddles. So it's a real combination. So if you've got someone a bit more wriggly, then it could be more useful. This one, as a standard, comes in the black spacer, and it comes with these tapes. So these are the silver safety slot tapes. They've been around for a few years now, and they're a streamlined tape. So if you've got the sling left in place and it's dangling, we're not going to get caught up in all the loops. So in many ways, it's a big benefit. However, if you don't like these, then we can put the loops on. But they are neat and fine, and they will fold up if you're tucking them away anywhere. So in many ways, also wheels will roll over them, hoists, things like that. You know, don't get so tangled up with them. But have a look online if you need extra information at the silver safety slot tape. But it comes as a standard on this design. So this is the Recline Deluxe. Yeah. So we would need to put this on the bed because, as I said, it's going to be smooth underneath around the bottom here. So there's no aperture, so you can't toilet with this. But you've got the paddles. The paddles wrap around and then connect together by taking the outside tape through. So the benefit of that is we've got an outside pickup. So for anyone that's wriggly, there's no rotation of the hip. So it's good having an outside tape there. So we'll go on green. The colour coding on the slots are the same, green, blue. So, you know, same colour coding. They just look slightly, and we'll go on red. This, all right, can we do it? Just take up the slack. So this style is fairly new to us, and it's already proving to be quite popular because, as I said, it's got the all-in-one, so it's very smooth, so there's no worry about a seam. Okay? Yeah. We've got everything on. And it's very, very comfortable, actually. So for rigor, you know, Julie's rigor and extends, you know, it's more controllable. But the beauty of it is that you've got no seam there, no aperture. So, you know, if you're leaving it on for extended periods, then it's a good option. But have a look at the website if you want more information on the Recline Deluxe. It can have a head support and it can have a chest strap. It comes as standard with a hip tape on the slots there. So it's helping with that, lifting that area as well. So the weight distribution there. So let me check. I think we've got Rhiannon now. Rhiannon, have you got any questions on, or have there been any questions on this one, the Recline Deluxe?
No questions at the moment, Mandy. Someone did ask about the Recline. If we were going to add a commode aperture, is that customized? I believe we do have some as standard with a commode aperture in a standard position, right? But you can customize if you want it in a certain position. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can request one and it will be just positioned in a standard formula. So the manufacturer will just make it into a standard place. But yes, if you have got a specific location, then you can request that and it would be tailor-made then. But having an aperture, so think about this one, the Recline Deluxe and the Recline. If you're having an aperture, you're going to then have a bound edge. So if this is left in, you're sat completely on a bound edge. So you need to remember that. If you need it for toileting, it may be that you have to have two, one to transfer to leave in place, and then you change to have all the aperture toileting. So and positioning is always quite tricky with that. We don't do many because I think it's quite challenging to position get the aperture in the right place, but it is possible. Yeah. Any more questions then?
No, that's it for the moment, Mandy.
So leaving this in and thinking about pressure, lots of things can contribute to pressure. The way somebody sat, the angle of the foot plate, clothing, things like that. It's lots of things can affect things and create pressure. So you've really got to just address everything. I mean, certainly, the legs can bunch up, things like that. So you've got to really be mindful. And if in doubt, it may be you've got to take the sling out. So it's one of those things that you really have to thoroughly risk assess with all the team, making sure that actually this is the most appropriate product for that person. So we've looked at 4 shapes. The only other styles are designed for a different hoist. So these are things we've seen so far have got the loops option. So they go on a spreader bar with loops and hooks. But if you have a clip system, then you need a sling that's got a stud that locks on. So if you look on our website for the clip, so on the website, the sling products are divided into clips and loops. So the clips will show you it's a hoist with a stud on, and you've got to lock on a clip like that. So if you have the clip type hoist, you're very limited to style. So really, we can only offer you a couple, and this is one of the most popular, which is called an all-in-one, shape. So very smooth, no aperture, so it needs to be applied on the bed. But you can't add anything. You can't add a hip tape because it won't let you, because there's no room on the hoist. But if you don't, it's mostly in hospitals, they'll have that type of configuration. So if you don't need that, or you don't come across it, then you don't need to worry. But you would need to just check the hoist compatibility for that. So that's roughly, in a nutshell, the leave-in, in-situ, all-day range. So as I said, it is not black and white. You've got to work out whether it's appropriate to leave the sling in then you need to look at the shape. The shape's very important for what you need. We've looked at the shapes, and then we work out the fabric. And then we've got 3 options, as we said: the single layer Superfine, double layer, or the Superfine Plus, the black spacer. Then we work that out, then add things on. Sizing. So sizing, Jude, if you can just, it's quite tricky because Judith can usually go into standard small slings, but in-situ slings are much more discreet. They're not so generous because we don't want big loads of fabric left in the chair. So they're much more tailored. So sizing may be different. So you might need to double check that. We've got very good sizing guides on the website, the sling dimensions and the body. So generally with a body, we ask for top of head, the crown of the head, the base of spine. Base of spine is literally top of the bottom there, the bony bit there. So if we can get that measurement, don't worry about curvatures and all sorts, just a straight line. And you get that measurement along with the shoulders, shoulder circumference, just a little bit down from the top, where it's a little bit wider, not at the very top because it's narrow, so a little bit down. So those 2 measurements, you can then check the sizing guide. So for there and there. And if it doesn't fall into a standard, then you need to talk to us and we'll help work it out. But to get those measurements, ensure you've got someone that's in a really good midline position. You know, they're not, if Judith is curled up, hunched forward like that, and I do her shoulder, I'm going to get a different measurement. If you now open up, it can change by 3 or 4 centimetres because opening up it's broader. So if we can get them into a nice midline, arms here, and again, you know, if you're measuring from the top of the head, you've got to try and get a straight line. I know it's not easy, but thanks, Jude. So those 2 are the most standard measurements to check. If you have someone that's in between, then we can mix and match sizes, or we can help with doing a tailor-made and go through the measurements with you, asking for extra ones. And we have a comprehensive form. We do lots of e-assessments, and this will help by linking up in this way with you, showing you where to measure, checking where you're measuring to do that. We do have some trial slings. So if you feel you need to try, then you need to email in and we will see what's available, as long as you know roughly what size, what fabric and the design. So you just need to let us know. Okay, just seeing that, how do you measure? So if you've got someone that's more shapely, then again, you just need to take all the measurements. So plus size.
Is it easier on the bed, Mandy, especially with a comfort recline to do?
Oh yeah, yes. Measuring on the bed is much easier. Again, you just need to take those standard measurements. If someone's very disproportionate, we'll help you. So we would need extra measurements. And it's always also good to know what someone's been using, what style, what size, how that's worked, where it's not worked. And then it gives us a clue where to start. But if in doubt, just email in and chat to us and we can then come back to you. We've got a very good team that will help in the customer services email, and they will then come back with advice. We can link up and recreate something for you. We have something similar, we can set it up and try and recreate something. Was there anything else? Any other questions, Ree?
No, I think that's all the questions covered, Mandy.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's been helpful. I know there's lots of information, but please look at the website because actually it's really helpful. We've created lots of data sheets, information, fact sheets to help you. you know, we've heard your queries and your dilemmas, and we've tried to provide that information to help, because we know how difficult it is when you're faced with challenges. But thank you very much for your time. I do apologise for the lateness, and hopefully we've resolved it now. And please look at the website for other sessions. If you have a team that would like your own session, please let us know. We can make them a bespoke session for your group. Very happy to do that. But thank you. Thank you very much to Alice, Rhiannon and Judith for helping me. And hopefully we'll see you again. So bye guys, thank you.
Thank you.